We take a single episode of a science fiction TV series and overanalyze it to within an inch of its life. This is the Fusion Patrol Podcast. Welcome to the discussion. Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Fusion Patrol. It's the episode you've all been waiting for. I'm Eugene.
And this is the episode that I couldn't wait to have happen. I'm Ben.
That's right. This is the final episode of the Starlost.
Woohoo! Yeah!
The episode entitled Space Precinct.
Well, that's original.
At the time, it may have been.
I suppose it was, yeah.
Garth has had enough and decides to return to Cypress Corners, leaving Rachel and Devon behind. On his way, he's picked up as a vagrant by the Inter-Arc police force. They run an identity check on him and discover he's just the kind of poorly educated bumpkin they want on the police force, and they offer him a job. Meanwhile, Devon and Rachel enter a nearly airless elevator wearing spacesuits and are soon stuck, with their suit air supplies running out. Garth's first case with the police is to leave the Ark forever in a spaceship to join the Federation of United Planets, a star system with a series of planets on the verge of war. Only the Inter-Arc police force epically awesome alien police techniques can stop the war. But there's a hitch. The spaceship is being jammed and the launch window is closing. It will be another year before the next launch window is available, and by then, the war will be full on. One of the police, Tech, is actually the saboteur and is attempting to sow discord between the IAP and the FUP. When Garth finds out, Tech shoots him and puts him in another nearly airless elevator. Luckily for Garth, Tech doesn't bother to close the door on him. The final confrontation leads to Tech's arrest, but the IAP ship misses the launch window. Well, I mean, I think as our listeners can tell, this clearly was the epic conclusion to the series, the story that we've all been building up to and expecting. And
we have?
Yeah, maybe, sort of.
I think we've been expecting the ending. I don't know if we were expecting anything really big based on past storylines.
Yeah. So, I mean, how'd this episode float your boat? Was it everything you dreamed it would be?
It's everything that all my nightmares feared it would be. This didn't float my boat. It sank my boat. It sank the Ark. It was horrible. Absolutely horrible. I was outraged when I finished watching it.
Do you think it was worse than Farting's Comet?
Yeah, I do actually.
Worse than the Beehive?
In its own ridiculous way, yes. I mean, with episodes like Farting's Comet and the Beehive, I mean, those episodes were filled with just really, really bad science and bad depiction of science. This was just bad storytelling from beginning to end. In numerous ways. I mean, for starters, the episode, and they started doing this a lot, I noticed, with the past several Starlost episodes. There's no real ease our way into the storyline. It's like we, the viewer, get dropped in the middle of something. And it never makes any sense. In this one, we get, like I said, we get dropped into this situation where Rachel is having a conversation with a spirit projector trying to find someplace. And there's never really any explanation why. All we know is that there's this desperate need to get there. And then that's when we start to see that Garth is feeling a little, we've been going around these for months and we're not getting anywhere. And I just want to go home and settle down and right there.
Die.
I want to go home, settle down, and die. And the first thought that ran through my head was, wow, aren't we selfish?
It's the whole Garth decides it's time to take a break and go home and really kind of, it's really hard to believe that anybody confronted with the fact that you're going to die if somebody doesn't take action and save the day. It's really hard to believe that he would go back to Cypress Corner. But then at the same time, it's also equally difficult to believe that the Astronomer Royale would be farting around with his comet, or that the Beehive people, or indeed that the Ark, the doctors that we saw previously, or especially indeed the police force, which is heretofore unheard of, on the Ark are so, I don't even know what the word is, but that would just be utterly ignoring the peril that the Ark is in.
Oblivious. Totally oblivious.
And I'll start with right off the
uncaring.
bat. If they have been in communication with a FUP, the Federation of United Planets, wow, that name sounds so
really familiar.
If they've been in communication with them for years, I'm thinking the phrase SOS comes to mind.
Yeah. And there's something else that really bothered me about this. It was the concept of this time window in order for them to reach the space platform. How, okay, we're going to be out, given the speed that the Ark is going and and its trajectory, that the next time we'll have a time window to have or a launch window to go to the space platform is a year. And I'm thinking, what? You mean the space platform is actually sort of following the Ark?
Yeah,
that would take it away from this United Federation, this FUP, this Federation of United Planets, or is the Ark just on one gigantic orbit? I mean,
actually, I think I like FUP better.
FUP, yeah.
I think
FUP.
Yeah.
It's emphasis on the FU.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, obviously, a launch window is a real thing in the real world. When you're on a planet and you're attempting to match trajectories between two orbiting objects that are not moving at the same speed, that makes perfect sense. But when you're on a presumably straight path, which the Ark should logically be on, well, I suppose it could be being bent around an orbitary path somehow.
Oh, I know.
But
it's the orbit. It's caused by that Class G solar star.
Yeah. So, the window thing. Of course, they had that haul with Bester's planet too.
Oh yeah.
He had to do his launch windows to get back to X-Star.
X-Star or something like that. Yeah.
And I can't even think of his name now.
Oro.
There we go. Gold in the outfit, and his shiny gold. I forgot about that.
With the personality of tin.
Well, that's getting.
Am I being too nice?
You are.
Oh.
You are.
Well, let me pick on something else here, and that's again this concept of this space police force. Now, there's several things. Again, here we have another organization, group, call it what you will, that is operating as part of the overall the Ark. Given everything that we know about the Ark, everything that has happened to it, the fact that there's really, at least we've been led to believe since the first episode, that there's no functioning bridge crew. How on earth could this space police continue to function and even exist?
And not take any action to try to help.
And not take any action. That's one.
But they did answer a question. They answered an important question that we have asked repeatedly on the podcast over the years, and one I never expected to get an answer to.
Oh, is that what the Ark Academy?
The Ark Academy.
Yeah.
They actually have an academy.
Have an Ark Academy.
It wasn't clear whether that was the Ark Police Academy or just the Ark Academy overall.
His exact words were Rafe, the head of the space precinct, did not want any textbook trained graduates from the Ark Academy. And that really leapt out at me. And of course, the first thought that ran through my head is, gee, I would kind of think that maybe our trio, our insipid trio, should have been, pursuing that. Maybe to get some answers there. And of course, then there's the next question. Well, if you guys are maintaining this school, what are you doing with your graduates? And why aren't you doing anything about the damn ship?
It's a train wreck, or it's a spaceship wreck. I mean,
it's a spaceship wreck.
There's no logic. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I mean, the writers have just quite literally jettisoned the concept of the show. I mean, I am not one to agree with Harlan Ellison. I don't necessarily believe that their version of Phoenix Without Ashes was so different from his version.
Apparently it wasn't. No.
Phoenix Without Ashes. But by the time we've reached this point in the show, they have utterly lost the plot with regards to what the show was supposed to be about. You know, ignore the bad dialogue, the horrific acting, the music that just will not die, but will not ever go with whatever's happening on the screen, because that would be too competent.
Just bad stories and storytelling.
Lost the plot. The
plots are horrible. They're laughable, and it's no wonder that Harlan would just say, you know, take my name, please. I mean, I do not even want to be remotely attached to this garbage.
Yeah.
I mean, another thing that really bothered me, when Rafe first finds Garth, one of the things that he does is he has Garth put his hand on a palm reader.
Oh yeah.
And now what happens? The computer apparently it has a record of every person on the Ark. You know, I would think that computer would also have a record of every trained personnel who could possibly fix the Ark. I mean, this goes hand in hand with the Academy.
And I'm not convinced that the people in Cypress Corners are, in fact, actually feeding the database.
No.
And, you know, some of the ones we saw earlier, the goddess Calabra, or some of the early episodes where they actually tried to adhere to the notion that each biodome was a unique world, totally out of touch with what was going on with the other domes. There's just no way that they're feeding the data systems with Garth's job as a blacksmith. I could see maybe recording his birth somehow.
Yeah, but the whole his adult life and
which I might
his
point
present career.
He was born on May 22nd, 2767, according to the printout on the screen. And his parents' names were Rebecca and I kid you not,
Garth.
Old Garth.
Old Garth.
Not Garth. Old
Garth.
I wonder if he was born Old Garth or he just became Old Garth after Young Garth.
I honestly think he was referred to as Old Garth once our Garth, Hare, was born. That might be an Amish thing. I don't know.
It could be. So yeah, that was ridiculous. The fact that they had to strap him down to, I don't know, you know, they kept doing things like, move over here, put your hand here. Okay, sit down in this chair, strap him down for a few seconds, then unstrap him. And then, you know, having done that, come back and go, yeah, this guy is good police recruit material. That one was just. I'm sorry, it doesn't matter what your intelligence meter says on Garth. He has not demonstrated that he's a particularly smart guy, and he's certainly...
Not in previous episodes.
He's certainly an ignorant bumpkin, just from his upbringing his entire life. He's not.
And to call him an
material.
ignorant bumpkin is not a condemnation when you, as you pointed out,
no,
when you consider his upbringing. I mean, he was raised in this Amish-like community on Cypress Corners. He was a humble blacksmith. I mean, maybe he does have a natural high intelligence quotient and an ability to learn and adapt, but that's... I don't know. I mean, it would
be handy, you know, to have hired somebody who might have actually heard of a police before.
Yeah.
Think about it. Would Garth have ever heard about police?
Maybe by this time, he might have learned about some kind of police or law enforcement people with all the exploration that they've done on the Ark. He might have heard of something along those lines, but this... As far as an actual police force goes, no, this is his first time.
So he takes it pretty much in stride. The fact that, you know, they're just going to abandon the place and go to this. Why couldn't they just rescue all the people on the Ark? Why couldn't they all just get on the little ships or have the FU people send ships or something?
I know, and the FUs. In spite of the fact that they were not human, were clearly humanoid, and the fact that Rafe wanted to take his people there suggests that the living conditions were very favorable to human life.
Mm-hmm. And I might point out that it's around a real sun,
Yeah,
not a star.
Not a solar star.
Well, he called it. He actually said it's a real sun, not a star.
Yeah, I heard that. And I was unimpressed.
Cosmos aired just last night, and apparently, according to that, real suns are stars.
Imagine that.
It's amazing.
Thank you, Neil, for informing me. I had no idea.
Perhaps they need to export that show to Canada. Yeah.
The other thing that really was just of complete and utter annoyance, as much as Devin and Rachel make me crazy, the way they were handled in this story was just ridiculous. They were not really a part of the story. They were plot devices.
They weren't even a plot device because
they were barely
didn't even really care.
Well, no, I mean, they were only a plot device insofar as how Tech was able to use their situation on her own personal behalf.
Yeah, just there for a moment where she got him to be a little worried or upset towards the end. But I mean, by and large, yeah, they were just sidelined. And the only thing I can say about it is I think the show might be a little bit better if they sidelined 2 out of 3 of them. But
I would agree with that. Oddly enough, while I was in the middle of the story watching it, and again, as I've said, with the past few Starlost episodes, this like with the Beehive and Farting's Comet. I mean, this was the first time I ever really saw this one, so I was going into this completely fresh. Not that it would really help any, but as I was watching it, I found so we've got essentially 2 stories going on here. One of them is being the thing about Garth, and the other.
It's a Terry Nation episode.
Yeah, I only wish it had been a Terry Nation episode. It would have made this one better. And the other story was the unconscious Devin and Rachel in the elevator, and how the camera would just train on. It's like, I don't need another 20-second view of them passed out.
I gotta say,
spare me.
I loved the fact that they were dying. No, I loved the fact that they put on their spacesuits and they went in that elevator and they were dying because they were in their spacesuits.
Yeah. That was kind of funny. Yeah.
That was hilarious when he pulled the suit off and it's like,
because that's where the air is, because the door had been open and there's air in now there's air in the elevator.
By the way, and I know I cut it out of the episode, so our listeners won't know what I'm talking about, but several episodes ago, you and I were talking about Subsmash, and we were asking the question whether or not your oxygen went up or down in a carbon dioxide mix. Oxygen's heavier than carbon dioxide.
Oh, is it?
Apparently. Although carbon dioxide has an oxide in it, but there probably was plenty of air in that elevator because they were going down in it, I think. So they were actually going down into the air instead of up into the carbon dioxide.
Ah.
So they probably would have lasted for months in there, except for the fact that they wouldn't have had any food. But in this story,
who needs that?
Nobody eats, yeah.
No one eats.
Another thing I thought was interesting is that Rafe and this Rena woman, Rena being the head of the FUP police, the FUP squared, FUP squared, and they've been corresponding for years, back and forth by radio, not bothering to mention that our ARC is in trouble, but it's another story. They've been comparing their police notes, so they've got their alien ways, and then the ARC has their ways, which are apparently very much in need because they're amazing police things. And Rafe's dream is that he can get together with those people and they can join together and they can merge their techniques and they can come up with the greatest police force the galaxy has ever known. They will be able to handle, and I literally mean word for word, they will be able to handle everything from a burglary to a space shootout. Because obviously before they merged their technology and their techniques, they had no way to deal with burglaries or space shootouts.
Yeah. This is not an exaggeration, listeners. This is exactly what they were telling us in the episode.
Exactly what he said. It was I find it hard to find anything good in it. The only thing I can say, the only thing good in the episode was the opening scenes when Tech came in, and I thought, well, that's a nice short skirt.
Nah,
but then really when they started looking at her face, she's
ew.
Yeah. I honestly think she got uglier as the episode went on.
She did.
I'm not kidding. Yeah.
No, you are not joking. She actually became more unattractive. And to be honest, I think the reason being is that as the story was going on, they started doing more and more close-ups of her face.
Could be.
Because we really didn't get a good look at her face in the beginning. And we only got, side angles
legs.
and far views and the way her hair was kind of draped over her face. But as we got closer and closer, or further along in her character development, we got more and more close-up. I mean, that's really how the episode was going.
Could be. It could be. Or maybe it's because that's how she was playing the villain.
Oh, you're giving her way too much credit.
And so she was kind of distorting her face and making her mouth out of shape.
You're giving her way too much credit.
No one could. Actually, the guy playing Rafe wasn't too awful.
No.
But he was given such incredibly awful lines that it was... I don't know.
And Tech was a one-dimensional caricature. She was terrible.
Yeah. And her justification behind this betrayal, let me give you some background here. Apparently, the FUP, in addition to being a federation of United Planets, they all appear to be in the same solar system. All of the planets, which is a pretty impressive habitable zone for a star,
yeah.
I have to say. And I forgot how many planets they said it was, but if you looked at the map, it had to be 8 or 9.
Let me see. There were 9 planets.
Because all solar systems have 9 planets if it's a real star.
We know that there were 2 planets that were disputing mineral rights
on a lumperoid.
And 4 of the planets allied themselves. 4 of the remaining planets allied themselves with one side, and the remaining 3 allied with the other. So you have your 9.
9, and if we're not counting the thing they were mining.
Correct.
Yeah. So yeah, there were 9 planets in this, and they were
9 civilized inhabited planets.
There we go. And so they were disputing mineral rights on this lump of rock that was one of their outer orbit things, and there was some nasty business going on. There were people sabotaging and lining up to go to war, and somehow police would be able to help that rather than the diplomatic corps. But let's just go with it. Go with it, people. Don't think about it too hard. And there were people in Rena's staff. It was a person who was trying to foment war. And then there was Tech, who had been promised by this person that he would make her the head of the police force in the FUP.
In about a year's time, once the war had settled down.
Yeah. Yeah. And she thought that was a perfectly reasonable reward for that course of action. So, yeah. So, yeah.
Bad motivation. It was horrible. Horrible motivation. Yeah.
But luckily, she had the convenient little device that they have that stops spaceships from taking off.
Oh, yeah, the space jammer.
Which they had 3 of. Because that seems like, and that's the only things in the safe, I might add, were the space jammers. And she got one of them by using, I don't know if I considered it clever or not, but talking about how when you open the safe, the combination changes every time.
I thought that was actually kind of clever.
Kind of clever, except for the bit where you said, well, it increments 1 digit each time. So all I have to do is to punch in the combination again with the next number in the sequence, and it will open. That tells you how many times the safe's been open. Because step forward.
I suppose that's handy in this particular case where only a very limited number of people are supposed to know the combination in the first place. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have a problem with it. I actually thought it was one of the smarter things they've done.
But the fact that they just had 3 space jammers in there.
Now, that was dumb.
Yeah. It's like, I'm glad you built that safe just for those 3 space jammers. How often do you need a space jammer?
Well, apparently In this case, a lot. Tech needs it in order to screw with Rafe and Rena, and then was his Mike?
Mike, yeah.
Yeah, I guess
like
it gets to be the pilot.
The other member of the elite IAP.
Yes, the green shirt, as I like to think of him. I mean, and he needed it in order to jam the jammer. So I guess it's pretty convenient to have.
Especially when you got a lot of spaceships going on around the Ark all the time, yeah. Yeah. So I've got one other thing on my list, and then we can just see if there's anything left on the thing. As I think we've described, Devin and Rachel are dying in the elevator, and eventually another group of the police gets sent there, having been sent there and taken back and sent there and taken back, I think earlier, and save them. And Garth helps solve the crime, gets Tech put away, but they miss the window, and there we are at the end of the episode. His friends have been rescued. He's over, and we have this wonderful, warm, heartwarming reunion between them when they come back together and realize that maybe getting out there and saving the Ark is worth Garth's effort. And oh wait, no, we didn't do that. No,
we don't get any of that.
No, sorry, I forgot. I completely forgot that they cut it off right at the point where somebody said, "Hey, we'll make a detective out of you yet," and he says, "I'll let you know." End of episode. They're not reunited. There's no
resolution at all.
Nothing whatsoever. It's exactly like Farting's Comet.
The story
in terms of ending.
Yeah, a precise, and this is the thing that really became the pattern over the last several Starlost episodes. They would end just as abruptly as they began.
And that is because, actually, they had so much story to pack into that little tiny window of time that they had to tell the story, that they had to truncate off the niceties at the beginning and the end.
Yeah, and if you dried that one out, you could fertilize the lawn.
That one was as dry as I could spin it.
Yeah, because that's all manure. I mean, there was. Oh, I wish they could have crammed a lot of story into this. It might have made it more interesting. Was this supposed
to be the end? I mean, was this actually supposed to be the end of the series? Because
it's hard to tell.
If this hadn't been the last episode aired, would we have picked up the next episode with Garth back with his friends and just, maybe wearing the funny police uniform instead?
Well, given the fact that every time we get into a new story, it's as if the previous one had never happened.
Mm-hmm.
But
this one leaves them like miles apart on the Ark, and with basically no communication. Well, not basically, with no communication or any interaction with one another at all. I mean, Garth isn't even instrumental in their rescue. Even behind the scenes, he's not instrumental in their rescue. They're just...
they're separated.
They're just separated, and they've gone their separate ways, and it's two separate stories, and they are never, not only not brought back together, but there is no inkling that they're going to be brought back together.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that we ever get, and this is I would say early on, but it's before Rachel and Devin get rescued, is we see a little bit of doubt in Garth regarding his decision to go off. Maybe maybe the character was thinking that if he had stuck around, this would not have happened to them. Who knows? Who cares? All we get is we have no idea what is going to happen to Garth at this point. At first, he seemed to be kind of open to the idea of becoming a detective for the IAP.
Why not? I've never heard of a detective. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. It made me kind of wonder if this was to be the last episode. And I would really love to know what was going on behind the scenes for this series at this time.
Lots and lots of drugs.
Well, it must have been just to get through it. But what was going on in terms of the showrunners? What were they thinking?
Were they thinking,
"Oh God, mercy"? Were they thinking, "Mercy killing"? I don't know. Was there any discussion as to where if there was going to be a second season? Was there any talk about maybe writing Garth off the show? I mean, I would like to know if there were any of these conversations happening right at the time they started to produce this episode. And was it intended to be the last one?
My guess is that it's none of the above. My guess is that the show sucked. The show tanked. It was probably over budget, even though it had a budget of $1.98. But they probably had a commitment that they were required to fulfill. And these last few episodes reek, well, more than the last few episodes, but the last few in particular reek of, we have to put something on the screen or we'll be in breach of contract. And so we'll just make them, and no, there's no dream of a second season at this point. There's no hope that they'll come back, unless, and I hope you're sitting down.
Yes.
Perhaps this was a soft pilot episode.
You know, to be honest, that actually had crossed my mind, that they were looking at some sort of a backdoor pilot or
Garth
for a possible
of the
spinoff.
Space Police.
Yeah. Actually, that thought had crossed my mind. And then just completely ignore the arc. Ignore the whole thing about the Starlost. Just let it crash, and then follow the stories of Garth with the IAP. That had crossed my mind.
Do you think Garth was popular enough, or was he just cheaper than Keir Dullea?
I think it was cheaper. Keir was in spite of the horrible acting that he did for this series, at least he had some kind of name recognition going into the show, so he was probably able to negotiate himself a really good salary up front. Yeah, Garth, no.
Yeah,
I
has that
wouldn't
guy
imagine
been
it was
in
that
anything
good.
else ever?
To be honest, I've never really bothered to look up his filmography, so I don't know.
Isn't it amazing how we've gone through this entire show and never once bothered to look up to see who these people
I
were?
did it only one time, and it was just to confirm, and that was in Beehive, because I wanted to confirm that the lead guest actress had been in Star Trek. And she was in Cat's Paw. And I did it a couple of times with guest stars, just a couple, but I didn't make a habit of it. And I usually did it when there was somebody that I recognized, either by name or by face. But as a general habit, no, I did not go looking up people's their career, their film career, to find out what they had done leading up to this, because I just didn't care.
To quote Wikipedia, Robin Ward, born April 10th, 1944, is a Canadian actor and television personality. He is known for hosting a 1980 revival of the American game show To Tell the Truth, and later hosting a Canadian game show called Guess What? He was also an actor on the soap opera The Guiding Light, in addition to having starred in the Canadian-produced 1973-74 science fiction series The Starlost, and served as narrator of the late 1980s revival of The Twilight Zone for a season, replacing Charles Aidman.
Huh. I had no idea.
He was also an on-location reporter for Good Morning Toronto.
Oh, dear.
And as a weatherman and an entertainment reporter in the 80s and 90s.
Ooh. That doesn't exactly bode well for one's resume when you've had to take on that kind of a job.
Okay, what doesn't bode well for one's resume is when
Starlost.
When you're in Wikipedia and you're looking at the Starlost entry and it says starring, and you got Keir Dullea, Gay Rowan, and Robin Ward, and Keir Dullea and Robin Ward are hyperlinks.
And he's not?
And Gay Rowan isn't. So Rachel...
Oh, Rachel's not hyperlinked.
Doesn't exist.
She probably retired from acting after doing that horrible series.
She probably thought, I'm not even going to try to get into acting after this series is over.
No one will touch me. No one will hire me after working in this piece of garbage.
Wow.
And I have as much acting personality as of a spoon.
Well, I think we've reached a new low here on the show, but at the same time, we're reading Wikipedia out loud. Next week, we'll be reading the Wikipedia entry on what else have we got in this train wreck? This is our last chance to talk about the Starlost at all.
One thing that really that I just have to pick on, and I was about to have a violent reaction if this scene had played out like I had feared it would, I would have had a violent reaction while watching it, and that is Rachel and Devin have gotten stranded in the elevator. It is stuck, and
you think she was going to have a baby?
Well, no, but
that would
what
be
happens
cliche.
That would have been really cliche. But no, what ends up happening is that they just stand there. I mean, and it's really annoying because we actually cut away and go back to the further adventures of Klondike Garth for, what he's going through. And then we come back and Rachel and Devin are still standing there just kind of looking. What are we going to do? We're stuck. We have to find some way to get out of here. And never mind the fact that in between them on the wall is a big black box that says service panel.
He was trying to get into it at one point.
Yeah, but by then they were so out of air they were passing out.
Speaking of utterly non sequitur little pointy things in the show, there's the scene where Garth changes his clothes into the police uniform, and he comes out and Rafe says, "Well, it's like that uniform was made for you." And I was thinking, well, he just went into the back to pick out clothes in his size.
Yeah.
So kind of that might be why it fits instead.
And speaking of clothes, something that made me kind of just roll my eyes when Devin and Rachel get into their spacesuits. Did you notice the spacesuit design that Rachel was wearing? It had a mini skirt.
No, I totally did not see that.
I did notice that. And I thought, wow, where is Sylvia Anderson when we need her?
It had a mini skirt on it?
It had a bit of a mini skirt thing going. Yeah.
I know what that is. Canadian television in the 1970s forbid women from wearing pants. So that they had to have a skirt on her to comply with Canadian television law.
Wait a minute. Back the truck up. Beep, are you kidding me?
Beep.
Was that a real
doesn't that sound
TV
like
regulation?
No, honestly, doesn't that sound like the kind of real thing that people would have had in the stronger days of censors? And, like when you couldn't have a married couple in the same bed, and if they were, one of them had to have their feet on the ground at all times. I can totally see women not being allowed to wear pants. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if in the 50s and 60s, or at least in the 50s, that they probably weren't allowed to wear pants in American television either. So, yes, I'm totally making it up, but there is no other justification for it other than you're complying with some stupid regulation.
Oh, I wouldn't even give them that kind of credit. I mean, the stupid regulation, I mean, as stupid as it may be, if it's true, and I'm not saying it's not, I just have a bad feeling that they just made that design for Rachel's spacesuit just because they thought it would be hip.
It's groovy, man.
Oh, it's
they spent
really
money on
happening.
An extra spacesuit. Huh. Well, I just typed into Google, when could Canadian women wear pants on TV? And it did not give me a very good search results.
Oh.
So it's possible that theory may be half-baked. Just a thought.
Well, it was still interesting.
More interesting than the episode.
More interesting than Rena having to have her staff double-checked 20 times.
20, that's double. That's right. They've been double-checked 20 times. Is that not
so they've been checked 40 times then, huh?
That's twubly checked.
Yeah.
Or whatever the word for 20 is.
I have no idea.
No, dodeca is 12. Yeah, I don't know what
Well, they've been double-checked 20 times, which means they've been checked 40 times.
Good thing they checked them that extra time twice.
Yeah.
During this episode. They checked them again, put a couple of them in prison because their records somehow were faked, took two of them out, checked their records again, found out one of them really was a crook.
Mm-hmm.
Which could explain why they need those awesomely epic Earth police techniques.
Could be. Because the FUP seems really DUMB.
Yes, indeed.
The thing that really gets me, when I finished watching this, I I wanted to try to finalize my thoughts after I saw the end of this episode. And to be honest, I had the hardest time doing so because it was just, I literally felt my IQ points drop. I mean, this I put on the same level, and you longtime listeners of our show will know that I'm going to bring back an old ghost from the past, and that is Man from Atlantis, the Naked Montague.
Woo! Yes.
Yes, the bane of my existence is that story. This one I put right at the same level. It was just that inane, that stupid. I mean, the entire storyline, if you want to call it that, involving Devin and Rachel was...
More of a fishing line, but yeah.
Well, yeah, a fishing line, a thread, I don't know what else to call it. I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, I really had no words to properly express my total frustration with this story. It was beyond stupid, and the implausibility of the whole thing was literally at an all-time high.
I don't know that I would put it in the same category of bad with the Naked Montague. But,
I do. It did not make me. It did not make me that angry, but I think that's because I had experienced that kind of anger already once before, and that's when I saw Naked Montague the first time. Because up to that point, I didn't think I could have ever seen any seriously proposed science fiction television to be that god-awful bad until I saw this. Or at least saw Naked Montague. So the bar had been set.
Wow.
And this one got damn close. Really, really, really close. I mean, the Devin and Rachel plot device was just that. It was barely a plot device. The existence of the IAP and other groups like the space medics, and the science division and the astrophysics division. I mean, all these
that
groups
guy that was conducting the nasty experiments on people.
I mean, all of these groups that are connected to the ARC as organizations that are part of the ARC function. Impossible to believe. Totally impossible. And just the basic story itself of this episode, it had nothing to do with what is going on with the ARC.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like we totally forgot all about it. And the only final summation that I could come up with after I kind of sat there, with drool coming out of my mouth for 20 minutes, was that I'm so glad this series is over.
You're not at all sad that it's gone? A little bit, just a little tear in the eye that...
Tears of joy, man. Really?
Well, as listeners will know, this is the point in the podcast where Ben and I dig down a little bit deeper and look for the meanings, messages, and morals from the episode that we've just... Oh.
No, we don't. No, not this time. Not here. No, and I dare say that our podcast colleagues on Mission Log would not be able to find anything in this series at all because it's just not there. Does the series hold up?
No,
not in the slightest.
Not the production, not the acting, not the stories, nothing.
And I remember when you brought this over to our house and you showed it to me, and I got giddy. And then I watched the first episode, and I thought, "Oh my God, what have I gotten myself into?"
The only thing that I can really come up with is that you had Ben Bova, you had
Doug Trumbull,
and you had Harlan Ellison, and honestly, you put those people together, and had you given them any power or any money or whatever it takes, it feels like this should have been an epically good show, and yet it is a catastrophic failure at every level, and
it only got worse as it went on.
Yeah. It really does just get worse. I mean, it's bad from the beginning, even though you have some big name guest stars and who should be able to act, and yet even in those episodes, they can't, which is a failure of the direction, or something. It must be failure of the direction. Perhaps they weren't used to working in cold climates, whereas, in those days, everyone worked in Los Angeles, and now they're up into Canada, and it's cold, and maybe they didn't heat the studios. I don't know. I'm making excuses here, but it just seems I've never seen performances turned in so badly as we did from Barry Morse, John Colicos, Tony Vincenzo from The Night Stalker, that guy who was eaten to serve man in The Twilight Zone, whose name eludes me at the moment. All those characters are just really good character actors that we've seen for years and years. Horrifically bad performances, and not at all buoyed up by the cast, who are completely uninteresting characters who change, sort of, from week to week. Look at Witness Devon and his sometimes I'm epically nasty Devon, and then other times I'm like, oh, I really just don't know what we're doing. We kind of tried to help you, Devon. Or there's, Mr. Towelman Devon. Garth was just, I hate you, I'm your pal, I'm just kind of wandering around. Oh, mopey me, I'm gonna leave now. And Drip was a drip.
She was.
From end to end, she was.
She
just
really
absolutely
was. I mean, we call her Drip for a reason. I mean, and you just watch the show. I mean, she is really Debbie Downer.
She never comes off as being you go back to Harlan's original premise. Here's a girl who has been raised in circumstances where there is no expectation, no training, no schooling, that she's going to grow up and be a baby factory and sew clothes. And he wanted that character to be someone that come out and prove that, in everyone, in a feminist point of view, in every woman, there is a person, a capable, powerful, strong woman waiting for the opportunity to bloom.
Oh, and never. That wasn't her.
And that was not her. And Devon, the questioning, never satisfied guy living on the farm, which is, a fair archetype of certain stories, or certain characters, I should say, never really showed that to me. He doesn't really seem like a curious, learning type. He seems like, I'm going to stand here and watch you, and just, you kind of, like this. And then Garth, I don't know what the heck he's supposed to be. He's the hothead, and he isn't even very good at being a hothead.
I wonder if he was supposed to be the muscle of the group.
He certainly wasn't meant to be the brains.
No, he certainly wasn't.
So yeah, I mean, it just failed across the board, and only Harlan Ellison was able to get his name removed. Ben Bova and Trumbull were stuck with this on their professional credits forever, and it's a sad and awful day.
Yeah, I mean,
I want to see this show made again. I actually do want to see this show. I think it
could be good.
I think somebody could this show. Listeners will probably know that I don't like the new, which is now old, but the new Battlestar Galactica. I don't like soap opera. I don't like characters I can't stand. And I don't think, although I think Battlestar Galactica had certainly many deficiencies and could have been readdressed with some work. But I kind of see the Battlestar Galactica approach working for this show. I think that could have worked.
Well, it's funny because I actually see Joe Straczynski doing this because he's worked in both mediums. He's worked with big story arcs and through comic books. He understands the storytelling in the anthology mode.
I would go along with it. I think Straczynski could do it.
I think he could do it, and he and Harlan have a very good working relationship. And he could get Harlan to come back on board and then finally craft the series that Harlan would have more wanted it to be. I think there is some definite possibility there, and maybe turn it into something we will all hope for.
I would credit Straczynski better able to do it than Harlan, because Straczynski has, say what you will against him or for him, there is one thing that he is proven that he can do. He can turn in a script on time that can be produced on budget.
Yeah, it's true.
And that is what Harlan has never been able to do. He cannot turn them in on time, and he cannot turn them in that can be shot. These are the criticisms that we have all the way back to City on the Edge of Forever. Scripts are not ready. Scripts were, casts of hundreds, casts of, just unshootable. Great ideas, but not capable. So.
And then there's some people who even question whether the ideas are great at all. I mean, Harlan likes to really
obviously
upset
Harlan never questions that.
No, but Harlan loves to upset the apple cart when you give him half the opportunity. And while I don't necessarily think that's a great, that in itself is not necessarily bad, but he likes to do it with television shows that really aren't conducive to that kind of thinking. And that might have been part of the reason why maybe some of these scripts were kind of veered away from him and then shipped off to, we make a joke, but there's some sort of apocryphal story about how these scripts are written by high school kids. And I'm thinking there is some really good truth to that.
It's certainly...
Because they feel like it.
They feel like it. Yeah,
and
you can't go any further than that.
And if these stories were indeed that bad, that would, not to get off the topic, but that would also explain why we were seeing such bad performances given to us by our primary cast, and especially the guest actors.
That is no excuse. If you're a paid actor and your job is to put on a performance, I don't have any respect for an actor who would turn around and do it half-assed when...
Well, I don't
maybe on the theater. Maybe if you were out there on the play and you wanted the thing to end and get it done with. But it's going to be committed to video forever. I just have trouble believing Barry Morris, who I understand was a consummate professional, or... I wish I could remember Tony Vincenzo's name from The Night Stalker. Simon Oakland. Would do that. And
well, maybe it's not a question of them turning in a bad performance. Maybe it's a question of they were not able to find what it was in the part that would help them turn out a good performance.
Certainly, I don't think the director gave them any help.
No, the director gave them no help at all. I wouldn't be surprised if the directors were also out of high school. So...
Out of high school, you mean having not graduated.
Yeah, exactly. So I have a feeling that the cast only could do the best they could with the materials they had. And if the material is bad, then, it's the analogy of a chef working with ingredients. If the ingredients suck, so will the final result.
Well, I am going to call time on our discussion of the Starlost and put a period on it and smash it into a Class G solar star once and for all.
We're going to incinerate and we'll never hear of it again.
And I don't know what series is going to replace it, but I'm sure it won't be as bad.
It's got to be better.
It's got to be better. And Ben... Thank you for joining me.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for taking me along on this terrible ride.
Listeners, thank you for joining us on this odyssey of exploration aboard the giant Earth ship Ark.
And if any of you watched this show, even recently, and still liked it, please tell us why.
Or if anybody knows whether or not women could wear pants on Canadian television in the 1970s.
That's a good question.
Let us know. And we hope you'll all join us again next time on Fusion Patrol.
End of line.
Fusion Patrol is a Lone Locust production. Like us, leave us a review on iTunes. Or stop by and visit at our website, fusionpatrol.com. Find us on Facebook or Twitter. Search for Fusion Patrol. Or just drop us a note at feedback@fusionpatrol.com. Our music is Fight the Future by Amber Wolf.